Well, fall is upon us, and it is a great time to consider doing a lot of different activities in our garden, and so we're going to go through some of those. Fall is a great time for planting trees and shrubs and any kind of fall bedding plants also. Temperatures are dropping, garden centers are restocked. Really, we're focusing mainly on a lot of deciduous trees and shrubs, and those are plants that lose their leaves in the fall. We do have a little bit of concern with broadleaf evergreens, and an example would be many of our hollies, the Chinese, Japanese, and Japan hollies would fall into that category. We want to be careful once we get past, say, November 1st. It becomes kind of a little bit late potentially to be planting many broadleaf evergreens. And the reasoning is that these plants don't have a sufficient amount of time to get their roots established before a winter sets in. Watering in the fall is also an important activity that we need to very closely monitor. Now, in a typical year, and 2008 does not fall into this category, but in most years, by the time we get into September and October, rainfall amounts have been reduced, and it's usually been a drought year that we've been dealing with. Going into the fall and into the winter, we want to make sure that our soil has adequate moisture for, in particular, broadleaf evergreens, those plants that keep their leaves during the wintertime, or any of the needle evergreens. Remember that they've got foliage that's present in the wintertime, and so we need to provide adequate amounts of moisture. Pruning is another activity that we may want to consider looking at in the fall. Just a couple concerns. One is that any of our really early spring flowering shrubs, such as forsythia, early spring flowering spireas, flowering quince, for example, understand or appreciate that those plants have their flower buds on right now, and so they're going to carry those through the winter. So if we do any significant amount of pruning in the fall or during the winter, we sacrifice some of those flowers that will open in the early spring. So just be careful and give that consideration. The other plant is, remember that many of our broadleaf evergreens, again, a lot of our popular hollies, if we prune them very severely at this time of the year, we may encourage a flush of late growth that may not have sufficient time to harden off before winter. So we may have a situation where they'll be more likely for winter burn. Most of us in central and south Arkansas have warm season lawns, and those we would not want to be applying fertilizer in the late fall. We should have been fertilizing those lawns in the growing season in the summer months. So if you do have a cool season grass, such as Kentucky bluegrass or tall fescue, fall is the primary time at which we will fertilize the lawn. As far as fertilizing our trees and shrubs, fall is not generally our best time for fertilizing. We'd prefer to wait until spring. The last kind of garden activity that we might want to be considering in the fall is controlling some of the winter weeds. One thing you want to do is know what kind of history of what kind of weeds you have in your landscape or in your lawn, and make that decision whether you need to apply any kind of a weed control chemical in the fall. If you do, it's probably best to consult with your local cooperative extension office in your county. Show them what kind of weed that you think you have had, and then you can talk out a plan of how to address that weed. And again, have a great fall and enjoy fall gardening.
To learn more, contact your county extension agent and follow the links in this section.